Now, if you study some of the science magazines, there's a whole host of articles talking about being able to replicate gold at for a cost of $5,000 an ounce. Lo and behold, where's the price of gold right now? $5,000 an ounce.
That would be crazy. Like if we can reproduce gold, just like a lab grown, because we also talk like, I usually talk in like, the inflation of gold is already bad, because you think about it from like 100, 200 years, even if it's like 1-2%, that's already like diminishing your value of the gold in total a lot. But then we have the possibility of like going in outer space and finding something. We get better technologies to find it on Earth, like with robots and like artificial intelligence. But then I have never considered that we might just be able to grow gold. That's a crazy thought.
Yeah, I mean, you raise a really good point. With the innovation around robotics and AI, 2/3 of the world's surface is underwater. What happens when we get robotics that can just mine Bitcoin off the bottom of the sea? Mine gold off the bottom of the sea, sorry. You can't mine Bitcoin off the bottom of it, but you can mine gold. That's roughly 2/3 of the world supply should be found at the bottom of the seafloor. But we haven't even looked at that. I don't even know anyone who's doing that economically now. So there are so many threats to gold that's a $30 trillion market cap that Bitcoin's immune to. So I look at this and think there's a whole host of factors converging into making Bitcoin the ultimate asset. And this is where it's really easy to get lost in the doomsayers and doom scroll and get really despondent and disappointed about what the future holds. But I look at it and think Bitcoin really represents hope. It's the only way to preserve your time. You measure all of your unit of account is time. And I think the message is none of us have enough of it. And, Michael Saylor, who'll have 1 million Bitcoin in a minute, I don't think he's going to get to 1 million and start thinking, oh, I've got too much Bitcoin now, I can stop, I've done my job. No, it's a perpetual game that everyone can play.
Do you think there's some kind of top for him? Like, is there like, I don't know, 5% of supply, 10% of the supply, where like he realistically can't buy a lot more than that? Is there like a top that you think?
No, because I think regulations will stop him before he stops himself or ruins the market. I think, he's from what I can tell, he has studied Rockefeller in depth. And Rockefeller was instrumental in consolidating all of those small oil companies, creating Standard Oil, literally control and dominating an entire industry, set up banks, set up ancillary services, controlled supply chain from top to bottom. And then the US government came along and basically created a legislation that ensured that Rockefeller had to split his empire apart. And I don't think it's lost on Saylor to think that the US government could come along and do that if he controls too much Bitcoin. They'll just come along and bust up strategy.
He talks also a lot about Standard Oil and what he did with Stretch. Like the oil comparison actually comes in quite some time when he talks on podcasts and all of those things. How do you think this busting up strategy might look, that he can buy more, that they might even nationalize? I mean, some people talk about nationalizing the Bitcoin that they have for strategic reserves purposes.
I think you'll get that split into multiple different companies. That'll probably happen in less than 10 years, is my expectation. And I think I'm hoping Saylor gets rewarded handsomely for it, but I think you'll end up with multiple different companies that are spawned from the Bitcoin that's held by strategy. I think the US government will take some. I think they'll create coffers for their own strategic Bitcoin reserve, and it would not shock me in the next 10 years to see strategy basically dissolved through, for anti-competitive reasons, because they have too much control over a single market.
Interesting. One thing on the gold I forgot to ask you, because I think it's really interesting, because we compare Bitcoin a lot to digital, like compare Bitcoin as like digital gold, and there are books around. I mean, Seyfedin and Moose, also like the gold comparison to Bitcoin comes very handy. Is gold kind of the first enemy of Bitcoin, or like an enemy even of Bitcoin?
I would like to look at it in a very different framing. I think gold and Bitcoin are like brothers, close cousins. I think there's a huge amount of work and intellect needs to go into understanding gold, and Bitcoin, once you understand gold, is a very easy transition to make. I actually think they're mutually beneficial and they're not competitive at all. In fact, when I see the price of gold go through the roof, that actually, to me, is very good for Bitcoin because it shows that the total addressable market cap for Bitcoin has grown significantly. So I actually think they're good for one another, and not detrimental.
The most important thing for your Bitcoin journey is not buying Bitcoin, but it's how to keep them. And yes, you have maybe the right tools, but how do you actually go ahead and stick it all together so it's the most secure for you personally? Self-custody is a deeply personalized journey, and the Bitcoin way is helping you exactly finding that correct setup for you personally. They are also helping you with securing your own cybersecurity. And if you want to go one step above all that, you can even get a consultation for a Plan B residency. Go to thebitcoinway.com/Robin and you will get a 30-minute free consultation. I finally and officially mine Bitcoin. This is not just something to stack more Satoshis, but it's most importantly also to support the network. Individual miners are the ones that keep the Bitcoin network decentralized. And by the way, you get KYC free Bitcoin. That's why I use Simple Mining. I get an actual proper Bitcoin miner. They set it up for me. They repair it if it breaks down. And most importantly, they let me choose the pool and even connect my own full node. I'm completely sovereign and I'm completely in control, and I can sign up with Ocean, no account needed. I just give them a Bitcoin address and then there's mining going on. No KYC, nothing. So if you're ready to mine Bitcoin, go to simplemining.io, tell them you come from Robin, and let's mine Bitcoin together. It's interesting because I never got the value of gold and I never got the why people invest in gold. Then I learned about Bitcoin and then I understood why people invest in gold. So like for me, actually, Bitcoin brought me closer to investing in gold. I still don't do it. I mean, I still have like one gold coin, which is fun. Like I have like one gold coin where I'm just like seeing the price of it when I got it, and the price of it now at I think roughly 4x since I got it, which I'm like, oh wow, like that shiny rock 4x since I got it. That's just crazy. Not anything close to what Bitcoin did, but it's just like I never thought about it when I got it. But yeah, it's gold is an interesting one. Like if you get Bitcoin, you almost have to get also a gold. And I'm actually curious because if you get Bitcoin, like why haven't you been a gold bug before? That's always the question that I have, because I haven't been a gold bug before. But like if you really get Bitcoin, what Bitcoin is, you should have been a gold bug before you've understood Bitcoin is. Isn't that is that a logical conclusion that I have?
That's a very logical conclusion. And you know what? When I hear that, I sit back and think that's a really good question. Like that's a really, really good question. And I sit back and think, it's easy to look at that now. Gold being up, what is it, 50, 60, 70, 80% in the last 12 months. But gold has been relatively subdued for a very long period of time, prior to say 5 years ago. So I think it was very easy to get lost on it, particularly if you're new to investing and having a look at it and thinking, hang on a second, everything's gone up dramatically since the global financial crisis. Since 2008, we're 4 or 5x on the S&P 500. And at that period of time, gold hadn't done that. Gold was basically lagging on a relative basis. So it had underperformed the S&P stocks and the rest of it. So all of this stuff is seasonal. And this is back to the earlier conversation we had about, the reptilian brain that we're working with. We are only attracted to those flashy things. And those flashy things are going up a lot We want to have a look at it. And ironically, this is further proof that Bitcoin right now is the best time to be buying. And not in 6 or 12 months when it's gone up 60, 70, 80%, it's breaking all-time highs.
Really interesting. One more topic that I want to get into before the end routine is the Bitcoin ETFs. We've talked about it most definitely on the last one, but they were a lot younger back then when we talked about it. I mean, they are now there since a little bit over 2 years. Like 2024 they got introduced. Now it's the 2026 May. So like they are like 2 years and like what, 5 months about old. How have you seen the Bitcoin ETFs? Is there anything that is for you like worth noting in the Bitcoin ETFs? How did they performed? How they kind of held on also in the bear market, and what you kind of seen with the Bitcoin ETFs in the last like 2.5 years?
The biggest takeaway for me is how successful they've been as a financial product for the issuers. For BlackRock, that is the most profitable fund that they have, despite not being the biggest. It's their most profitable because they get to monetize the volatility on the back of it. It's been so successful that a lot of the big banks that said they'd never do it, like JP Morgan and Morgan Stanley, they were happy to let the ETFs go. They never wanted it. And then they've seen the success that these companies have had, particularly BlackRock, and they've said, we want to have a piece of that. And most importantly, those companies, Morgan Stanley and JP Morgan, have got huge client bases. They look after and manage trillions, if not tens of trillions of dollars. And they're going to funnel all of their clients into having 2 to 3, 5, maybe even 10% of their net assets holding those ETFs. So from a financial success perspective, I think they've been an outrageous success for these banks. They're making a fortune. From a concern perspective, when it comes to Bitcoin, what I would like to see across all of these ETFs is the ability to have in-kind redemption. So the ability to withdraw your Bitcoin from that fund at any point in time. I think that would serve a number of different purposes. Firstly, it would allow any investor to take self-custody of that Bitcoin. It would, by default, solve a problem of proof of reserves because, if the fund had the ability to do in-kind redemptions and they were basically fractionally reserved selling their Bitcoin that they held within the fund, or they had overexposure or underexposure, they'd get found out pretty quickly. And most importantly, I still want to see or have the ability for clients to self-custody that Bitcoin, because to me, that is the ultimate hedge, the ultimate protection. It gives you the ultimate optionality to protect yourself moving forward. And once Bitcoin becomes ubiquitous across the global banks, you will want to have the underlying asset, not the ETF. And there is a huge benefit to owning the underlying. And so this is where, say, from a concern perspective, I would love to see in-kind redemptions of Bitcoin offered by those ETFs.
I think the European actually already have it. I don't buy ETFs, so I don't know exactly, but I've heard from the European issuers that some of them actually already have in-kind redemption, which is, I think, an amazing thing if you can actually redeem those Bitcoin, which also holds them more accountable. Like as you said, it's a great thing to have in-kind redemptions, to have more transparency. What do you think of proof of reserves? Sorry to jump back to strategy, but now that we talk about transparency, Saylor always kind of tosses that question off of like security concerns, and like maybe also he's concerned that if people watch that address all day long and there's something moving internally, all of a sudden this stock crashes because people think they sold some Bitcoin. Like there's like a lot of concerns with a publicly traded company and having proof of reserve. But like, would it be a beneficial thing? Like, how do you think about proof of reserve, especially for a huge company like Strategy?
Well, I think it'd be hugely beneficial for the broader Bitcoin community. It may be very disadvantageous to Strategy shareholders and Michael Saylor. So I understand his point of view. I think he's one of, if not the smartest in Bitcoin. He's been a great servant for Bitcoin. I don't think anyone's done a better job of shilling Bitcoin over the last 5 years, or probably 6 or 7 years, than Michael himself. Maybe give him a little bit of leeway or grace, but from a Bitcoin community, I would love to see proof of reserves for Strategy because it enables you to see exactly what's going on chain. And this is the fear that we've got from, well-founded fear. We've got, a whole host of examples that we can draw on from less than 3 years ago. We've got, I'll call it less than 4 years ago, we've got FTX, we've got Celsius, we've got Genesis, we've got BlockFi. We've had a whole host of companies blow up in this space who we thought were good actors. And, they never provided proof of reserves. And ultimately, the Bitcoin maxis were proven correct that, they were running a Ponzi scam. So, look, I think it's a tough one. I like to give Michael as much leeway as possible because I think his service to Bitcoin has been second to none over that period of time. So, from a personal point of view, I'd love to see it because more transparency is a good thing. And I'm, failing to see where more transparency for the broader market is a bad thing. I think you'd be hard pressed finding examples of that. But from Michael's perspective, Saylor's perspective, and strategies and their shareholders, it might not be a good thing. And I can understand that point of view too.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it would just give, like, I'm really curious because, like, I'm always for transparency, especially if you hold that many Bitcoin. But I'm just thinking of, like, if I would sit in the chair of, like, Saylor, or I guess in the chair of Fong Li, and think about what are the potential attack surfaces for my company and my shareholders, just providing the proof of reserves. There's a lot of attack surface. There's a lot of Twitter trolls that are 24/7 looking at my addresses, and then there's something moving, and they interpret it, they false, or maybe interpret it correctly, but try to paint it in the wrong direction. There's so many, I don't know, short sellers and stock haters as Saylor and strategy has. Again, I'm all for proof of reserve, and I would love to see it. But if I put myself in the shoes of Saylor, I'm like, maybe it's a thing that I don't need. Maybe, I don't know, like it's a headache maybe.
There are so many headaches. This is where I'm like, think about being Saylor. He's worth hundreds of millions, if not billions, multi-billionaire. And he puts himself in direct line of fire for all of the Bitcoin plebs out there to voice their opinions on how he should be doing his job. I'm like, he's very patient, very, very patient. I don't know how he does it, but yeah, I think
that's true, actually. That is true. He already has a lot of headaches. But yeah, I guess he learned a lot in his long career being the CEO of a publicly traded company. He has I think a very thick skin and a good way to handle stress. Otherwise he wouldn't be here anymore. But yeah, let's come to the end routine of the podcast, where the previous guest is asking a question for the next guest without knowing who the next guest actually is. I swear today you got a really good one, like a really nice one.
Like the other time.
Yeah, like we have a history. And it's a really nice one because I know the average age of my listeners around 40 to 50 years old. And I think a lot of them have maybe young kids. And the previous guest asked you the question, if you could give an 18-year-old kid only one advice today that has nothing to do with Bitcoin, what would that be?
One piece of advice?
Yes, one piece of advice outside of Bitcoin.
Stay curious. Be as curious as you can. It will serve you well. I think that will lead to a whole host of things that you've got no idea what will come from that. But maintaining that curiosity and that willingness to learn is invaluable, particularly in this market where AI is disrupting everything. I think curiosity will be a superpower.
I love that. That's I would have gone in a different direction, and I would have ended up in a similar outcome. I would have said something with like, stay a critical thinker, which requires you to stay curious and stay always learning. I love that. Really, really cool. Thank you so much, Peter, for being on the podcast, man. An hour with you flies by very quickly. The first thing that every Bitcoiner does, and the most important activity that every Bitcoiner keeps on doing, is buying Bitcoin. And I personally use Relay to buy and sometimes also spend or sell my Bitcoin. And there are two main reasons why I do so. The first one is it's Bitcoin only. They do not do any shit coins. They do not do any cryptos, any stocks, or anything else. This is a tool, an app that is fully focused only and solely on Bitcoin. The second one is self-custody. They give you the keys to your Bitcoin the moment you buy them. You never give them the control over your Bitcoin, and you don't have to trust them because you can verify that you and only you have the keys to your Bitcoin. There's no third-party risk. There's no freezing of your assets. There's no rug pulling. There's nothing of that. Download Relay, the app, on your phone, or go to relay.app on your browser and use code Robin to save fees and get cheaper Bitcoin. I want to tell you about something very special to me. It's called micro-seed. If you hold your Bitcoin in self-custody, and you should, you know how critical it is to secure your seed phrase. You should not have them on paper. You should not have them on anything else than titanium. With micro-seed, you can engrave your 12 or 24 word seed phrase, the entire seed phrase, onto a 1-inch small washer. Yes, just one washer. All 24 words on that one washer. You can hide that thing everywhere. And even better, you don't need to buy a new kit every time you have to get a new wallet. You can make unlimited backups because microseed is not selling the washer. Microseed is selling the device that stamps the washer. So you get the full kit with the device, with the washers, with the hammer, with everything you need to get started today, and you can make with that unlimited amount of backups. Go now to microseed.io.